Okay, I hope. Oh, this looks decent. Okay, this looks good. All right, you guys. Let me grab my AirPods so that I can get better audio. And I'm just gonna wait a couple of minutes before I get started. But so many of you guys asked me to do this, and I waited so long because I didn't feel like I was the person to be doing this. I didn't feel qualified and all those stuff. But anyway, you guys have asked so many times, so I am making this live. I have about an hour and I have a PowerPoint because I couldn't remember all of my points that I wanted to make. So I have a PowerPoint just to kind of help me get through all of the dating tips that you guys asked about and asked for. So let me grab my AirPods and put my AirPods in for a microphone, and then we'll get started. Oh, hold on one second.
I don't understand how to do a dumbbell overhead side lunge. So you go to the side, but is your foot like, my body doesn't seem to get.
Okay, I had to respond. I had to respond to a client email. I fixed the audio too. So let's get these in. We're only a minute in, so you guys can just skip ahead. And then let me make sure that I am actually live. Okay, and then I should show up here on my own page here. Oh, we're good. Okay, here we go. I've got my electrolytes ready for this conversation. And so let's me share this screen. I'm going to go ahead and um, do a share screen. Share screen. No. Okay, sure. Let's see, where am I on the screen? Oh, I'm in the bottom. Okay, that'll work. That'll work. I don't know how to like move myself or anything like this. I think this is not as advanced as like the other ones. Okay, so let me put this in presentation mode so that it looks good for you guys. Wait, how do I do that? File. You guys. How do I make this in presentation mode? Oh my gosh. Hold on one second. Actually, this will be fine. Whatever. Okay. Okay, so this is a video that many of you guys asked me to make, and so I'm going to do it right here. If we don't get through everything, I will make a part 2. Okay, but I'm going to try and get through as much as possible. Okay? So I have a disclaimer because make sure that everyone knows that I don't think that I know it all, and I am um just a random woman with a lot of life experience with opinions. I've done a lot of things wrong in my life and I've done a lot of things right. And so I'm just sharing my experience. Um, I have not arrived. Some of this information is things that I have done. Some of this is information is stuff that I have not done. Some of this is advice what I wish I knew before I started, but did not know. And so you just take what this, from this what you will. All right. So the first piece of advice that I have is let's talk about you. I think with dating, a lot of times we talk about other people and men and what they want, and their faults and all that stuff. And that's something to talk about. But really, we have to talk about ourselves and ask ourselves, what are our goals? What are our ambitions, purpose, desires, triggers, shortcomings, our relationship with God? What are our deal breakers? I have this in a later slide, but my mom used to say, if you know yourself, then you can choose a person that's better for you than if you don't know yourself. And of course, we are all growing and changing. So knowing yourself is not like this thing that you're like, I know myself. It's like, well, you know, hopefully as part of the sanctification process, you're changing and growing. So that's a continuous process. But you guys get the idea. The idea is you understand um, your needs, your goals, and ideally they align with the word of God. And so you know what you can deal with and what you're not willing to deal with. So, on the topic of talking about you, we're going to talk about first about trauma and attraction. I think one of the things that gets left out of this conversation a lot, what are you attracted to? Is that a lot of women and men are just simply attracted to the wrong thing. And I know that sounds crazy because it's like, I can't help who I'm attracted to. You actually can. Um, you are most times people are deeply attracted to their reciprocal or some idea of like what everyone else thinks is attractive versus what they actually want. If you were someone who grew up without a father and you experienced neglect, you might find men who put you on an emotional roller coaster attractive. You might find that sort of like evasive bad boy attractive. Did you know that if you can work through that issue that you can actually change that attraction? A lot of us are attracted to unattractive behaviors and looks and appearances. There was a point in my life where yes, I found that like thug look attractive. I found that streetwear look attractive. I don't find it attractive now. I don't. I just don't find that, to me does not get me excited. I like a more professional, a more midline dressed man. But there was a point where that was attractive to me. So if a man was dressed like a business casual, then I'd be like, oh, no, 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 he's not attractive. So the question is, have are your attractions actually healthy? I remember I was talking to this one lady and she was what we were watching it was like some couple on Instagram or YouTube or whatever. And he kind of like talked to this woman in a crazy way. And she was like, oh, I just love the way he like gathered her together. But to me, that was unattractive. To me, I was like, I do not want to be spoken to that way. I do not want to be spoken to like a dog. I do not want to be spoken to disrespectfully. You can gather me together and put me in my place without being disrespectful. But if you think that that's like attractive because of whatever um emotional issues that you've had growing up or whatever trauma you had growing up, then you will not find a healthy man attractive. So you may not find a healthy man attractive. You may find men who are healthy to be boring. I need a little razzle dazzle. I need a little swag. Okay, well, ooh, I don't know what to tell you because to me, needing that razzle dazzle, needing that swag kind of indicates that you're more interested in like a feeling than actually a healthy relationship. So that's why I say it's like really important to deal with the trauma and like what you're attracted to. I will straight up tell y'all that yes, I was more attracted to the chase. I was attracted to um people that I could not have. Like that is, like a lot of women can relate to this where if if there's not that excitement, if there's not that like burst of like, ooh, I want that, then they're like, oh, he's not worth it. But a lot of times that instant spark, that instant, attraction is actually traumatic. And I mean that in a very real sense. It's not a pop psychology way, but a real way that is actually unhealthy. Because something in you, something about the little girl in you finds that to be healing in some way. And that can be problematic. That can be problematic. So it's not always an issue, but that can be problematic. Women tend to do better in relationships when they grow into attraction. When they grow into attraction. And I have to say this because it's like a lot of women I'm realizing Christian women, they want a thug to theologian. Like that's their ideal man. Is like, I want a guy who used to be a thug, but he's a theologian now. So I want that like sort of like, I hate to say it, but Philip Anthony Mitchell look like, and I'm like, that's rare. Do y'all know how rare that is to find somebody who um converted to Christ but was previously thug? Usually those kind of men have already put a bunch of women to hell and back. So is that really what you want? Is that really what you want? And the question still remains, why are you attracted to that? That's nothing against these people who are thugs and theologians. It's just what, like, that shouldn't be a type that you want. That is strange to me. It is strange to me that you want a thug to theologian because you don't just want a healthy man. Like you want somebody who's, I get it. I want somebody who's been through some struggle, been through some, okay. A lot of people can have gone through struggles and have resilience, but they didn't have that sort of criminal background. So we have to ask ourselves, why are we so attracted to that? What makes that, you're looking for that, but maybe that's not what you need either. You know what I mean? So I should have titled this Thug to Theologian. I don't think you can change the title in YouTube. Hmm, you can. Okay, let's move on to the next point. Okay, next point. Let me move my screen around here. Okay, so as I was saying, we are still human, which means we still have to work on what we're attracted to. Even though we're believers, you still have to work on that because you were saved, right? Saved immediately, but you still are not free from the consequences of the sin of your parents, of the sin of your family members, of the sin of your past. You're still not free from those consequences. They still are going to happen. You're free from the ultimate penalty, but you're not free from the consequences. So you still have to work on what is attractive to me. You can change your attractions, and you should change what you're attracted to. It's biblical. You should be changing your affections. You guys, you know that there's a hymn that says, "And the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light." The things of this world should be dim. You should not want those things. So if you're looking at a man for something that maybe the world wants to see, I would ask myself some questions. Now, a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, well, then you just want me to date an ugly man." No, you should be physically attracted to someone. Yes. But you should also be looking at their emotional, spiritual, psychological health and be attracted to the healthy version of that. So when you guys are like, "Oh, but he's just not my type." Okay, physically he's not your type, maybe, but physically your type has also run you through the ringer in terms of dating. So why are we so quick to be like, "I want somebody who's my type"? That's crazy. Your type is your trauma bond. Your type is kind of a man who hasn't been treating you well, kind of a man who still hasn't married you. So you have to be willing to change what you are attracted to. And that means working on yourself. You should not be attracted to men who are in the club. You should not be attracted to men who like to be outside. You should not find men who do not walk with the Lord attractive. Like we should not be looking at that and going, "Okay, well, no, 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 no." When I got serious about dating, it was like, if you did not love Jesus and you were not actively working on your relationship with the Lord, I want nothing to do with you. Like, you are absolutely not attractive to me. Now, your face might be cute. Your face might be cute, but your desire to be close to God is more attractive than your face. But that takes serious work because we like to be surface. And I've talked about this as women. Women are were never meant to be surface level. We were meant to evaluate men on a whole. We're not supposed to look at men and be like, oh, he's cute, so let me that's how men look at women. Like God designed men to be very physical. So they look at a woman and they're like, ooh, ah. Women are supposed to be looking at the whole package. Now, so should men, but that's not their instinct. Men's instinct is to look at a woman's package, like her face first, her beauty. They're very physical. But women are supposed to look at the whole package and say, okay, I don't care that he looks like Aaron Pierre, that's Mufasa. I don't care that he looks like that if he doesn't love Jesus. I'm not, and I have this later in my slides. We're not opening a conversion academy over here. So a lot of us want Aaron Pierre. So we go find Aaron Pierre and then we try and put him in, Chanel's school of converts. And it's like, no. How about you become attracted to men who love Jesus? How about you become attracted to men who do not crave drama? How about you become attracted to men who enjoy chasing women, the woman that he chooses, versus random woman around the street? So you feel like, ooh, when is he gonna text me? How about that? You know what I mean? So, yeah. Okay. So let's talk about your goal. If your goal is marriage, then your goal is marriage. It's not to date. So when you're dating, if someone's like, "Oh, I don't want to get married," cut them off. You're not going to convince them. You're not about to convince somebody to get married. Well, if you do, the likelihood is that they will leave. You're not about to convince someone that they're going to get married. What kind of marriage do you want? That's something that you need to understand so that when you're looking and you're dating, you can be watching and looking out for those qualities. So, do you want a marriage where it's completely, you're at home, you're working he's working all the time. Um, you don't have a life outside of the home. Is that what you want? Okay. Make sure that the people that you're dating, as you guys get to know each other, not right off the bat, but as you guys get to know each other, that's something that you guys talk about. Are you going to be someone that's working from home? If you're working, or are you someone let's say you want to work, because there's nothing wrong with wanting to work. Now, your priority should be your family, but there's nothing wrong. Listen, I live in California. I am under no um misguidance that it's difficult for one person to take on a whole household and like buy a home and do it's very difficult. So this idea in California that someone is going to be able to like take on the entirety of a household immediately is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. So for me, I knew that okay, when I quit my teaching job and I started doing my own coaching business, I knew that part of that was number one, I knew that if I ever wanted to like do a sort of like normal job, I could go back to teaching. And that worked great with kids because once kids are in school, they can go to school. Right. But then when I started my coaching business, I also knew that I wanted to be able to have the flexibility. If I wanted to, I could take my baby with me to work. I have so many friends who are in the same industry that I'm in, and they just strap their baby on and they go out and coach. They go out and train. They like nobody cares. So I knew that with my career. So what are your goals? You have to understand that too before you get married so that you can be like, okay, this is my plan versus I just want a man who's going to be able to provide for me. It's like we live in California. That might be available in other states. I don't know. But in California, usually a dual income is needed, or you are living on the brink of poverty, or you're living in the middle of nowhere. And maybe that's okay for you. That's the other thing is you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with that. What is your timeline? Are you someone, especially if you're younger, I'm a little bit older, but if you're younger and you're talking about, I want to have kids by 30, okay, you need to start actively dating by the time you're 25, just in case it takes a few years for you to find the person. Versus, oh, I'm 29 and I want to have kids by 30. Now you're putting a pressure on yourself that may cause you to make some decisions. So this is why I said in my clip, like, if I would have known younger that I wanted to have kids by 30, I would have been a little bit more active. I would have been a little bit more persistent. I would have been a little bit more focused in my approach as it came to dating. But I kind of just was like, I didn't understand. Honestly, you guys, I just didn't understand that you have to actually actively work towards getting into a relationship. Like, that's just literally how that's how it works. Um, you can't just think that things are going to fall by the like they're just going to fall into your lap. Unfortunately, that's just not how it goes. Okay, let's see. Ambitions. Yeah, I have a lot of ambitious women. I know that I have a lot of ambitious women on this page. Thing that I taught when women ask me, I always ask them, like, what are your priorities? Because at some point you are going to have to make getting married and having a family a priority. So if you struggle with, oh, I don't have work-life balance, you need to fix that because it can very easily turn into, oh, I'm just going to pray and wait on the Lord, and that might not happen for a while. So I highly suggest that you make it a priority. That means you may have to actively start, I'm going to talk about meeting men later. You might actively start having to go to um I was doing this when I was dating. I would go, so I had my home church because I loved my home church, but then I would go to college and young adult groups of other churches because my church didn't have a college and young adult group. So I would go to those groups just to get out, just to be around other believers, just to talk to other people. And I think that was so healthy for me. Number one, it helped me develop my relationship with God. And it also just helped me to meet new people and to get into community with other believers, which actually will help when you're looking and you're dating. So let's talk about your priorities. If your priority is to get married, then you cannot be married to your job right now. I'm sorry. You're going to have to spend some time getting out, going on dates, meeting men, and starting to get yourself out there. I'm sorry, but you cannot be like, my work, it's the most important thing right now. I'm sorry, but that's how a lot of women end up single when they're 39. And I've had this conversation with lots of young women. That's how you end up single when you're 39, is that your job becomes your priority because you're like, "Oh, it'll just happen when it happens." That's not really how it works. You have to be able to set time aside to make it, especially in this day and age, because people used to there was a chart running around here in a while that said that people used to meet their spouses through a lot of friends, but we're becoming a less social society. And so now you have to meet people online. You have to meet people at church. You have to meet people in specific places, just lunch or whatever it's called. They have all these things that you can go to. So you have to make it a priority. I'm sorry, but it will be like a full time job. It will be, and that's just the nature of dating right now. But if you can get into community, if you can, let's say you like, this is a little bit harder for Christians, to be honest, because let's say, like, I'm really into like training, right? So I go to these like training workshops, and you meet a ton of people there, but you're not gonna meet necessarily Christian people, so it gets a little bit harder for Christians because we do have a more narrow pool, but it still helps to get out and like do things that you enjoy, meet people, go to conferences, talk to people, etc. Okay, so kind of along those same lines, I would say that your purpose, it should be to serve God in whatever he has planned for you to do. Uh-oh, I don't know why that's on there. Hold on, let me move. That was not supposed to be on my slides. Um, so I haven't said this yet, but you absolutely attract what you are. So if you are someone who's rocky in your relationship with the Lord, you're going to attract someone who's rocky in their relationship with the Lord. Because that's just how people we're naturally drawn to people who give us something. That's just a fact. You are naturally drawn to them. So if you are spending your time with the Lord and you're serving in your purpose, you will have a clearer understanding of what you want, and other people will have a clear understanding of what you are, and they will not even come into your purview. Okay? They will not even come into your purview because they will say, "Oh, no, no, no. That woman is serious about God. That woman is serious about God." So when you walk in your purpose, you're doing what God has called you to do. Other people see that, and maybe your future spouse will see that, but you get very clear on what God's calling is in your life and what you're supposed to be doing. And when you're walking in that purpose, there's really, it's hard for people to sway you. Because one of the things that happens, I talked about earlier, we try and open up conversion academies. Well, those men tend to kind of stay away from you because they're like, oh no, I can't get in there like that with this one. That's what happened to me. Is like when I was kind of like iffy, all kinds of weird people came my way. All kinds of people came my way. But when I was very serious about God, I they were far and few in between, but they were better choices. I'll just put it like that. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is praying for wisdom to see your own faults. This is triggers and shortcomings. Um, this will help with a lot of things. This will help with perfectionism and seeking perfectionism in relationships. One thing that I did notice and that I do notice with women and men is that because we have access to everybody else's lives, we think that a person should come to us perfect. And a lot of that is because we don't even understand our own issues. We don't understand our own faults. So when you understand, and that's why I say pray for wisdom to understand your own faults, you understand that you can be both a work in progress. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Um, okay. When you know yourself, you know what you can tolerate. And yes, I said tolerate because if you're looking for a man who never does this or never does that and always does this and always does that, you are asking, I would question if you understand the gospel. There's a book called When Sinners Say I Do. It's a good book because it kind of helps you realize that even though you guys are both believers, you both being believers doesn't mean that the relationship is going to be perfect and that you won't have struggles. So when you understand your own faults, then you have empathy and you know what you can tolerate. Like for me, I'm not tolerating verbal abuse. I'm not tolerating alcohol abuse. I'm not tolerating pornography or cornography, whatever the kids are saying on this thing now, right? I'm not tolerating that. But I know that, okay, Christians still get angry, right? I know that I can tolerate someone who, stays up super late, I guess. Like whatever the tolerate the thing is. But you have to be able to know your shortcomings and understand that everybody has them. And so you have to decide what shortcomings are acceptable to you. Because if we're looking at everybody else's relationships online and thinking that they don't have any shortcomings with each other, we're lying to ourselves. So you really have to be careful about that. You really, really do have to be careful about about wanting perfection. And perfection isn't the basics. A lot of men will say, "Oh, you just want somebody who's perfect." No, 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 no. Perfection um is not the basics. Okay? I mean perfect and never and doesn't have any flaws. And I'm going to talk about deal breakers here in a minute. So I'm not talking about deal breakers. That's not asking for perfection. I'm talking about, things that really are do not matter. Okay? Hairlines, like whatever. Shave your head, go bald. My husband's bald, so I don't care. You know what I mean? Stuff that doesn't matter. Okay, this is my intermittent disclaimer that I am just talking. Y'all, I'm just talking. I don't know everything, blah, 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 blah. Okay, your relationship with God. I think it's really important that as much as it's in your power to be in relationship with the Lord, be in relationship, be in community with other believers because they will tell you the truth. Your friends who are believers will tell you the truth. So, getting in community, men and women can sense when you are weak in your faith. And the devil likes to come in with that thug to theologian, kind of. Man, come on, yeah, man. I love God. I just don't go to church. I love God. I believe in a man, but I don't go to church. But yeah, 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 Jesus, man, yeah, yeah, yeah. They can sense when you're weak in your faith, and they come slithering in, and then you're like, "How did I get myself in this situation?" You should be repulsive to unbelievers in that sense. Not in a like, oh, you're mean to them, but they should be like, no, 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 I'm not messing with that. I already know that that person is solid with God. I know that. So I don't need to deal with that because I'm telling you, when I was dating, I have this on one of my other slides, but when I was putting on my profile, I used to just put like Christian in my profile, right? Like it was like the check box checked, whatever, it was Christian. But then I started writing it in my description, like I'm a Christian and it's serious. And we would match with someone, and then the person would say, yeah, I'm not that serious about God. Even though they would have Christian in their profile. Praise God. Because I'm avoiding the foolery, right? So it's a good thing. So do not be discouraged. But men, that's why I think it's so important to know your own relationship with God and have a relationship with God because people can sense that you will not attract um people who aren't serious, like genuinely attract people who are not serious. You'll attract the right people. So it's important to make sure that. Now you're like, why are you talking about me so much? And because I think that we have more power than we think over this in this situation, in this area. I do. So that's that. Also, I think it's really important that your relationship with God is strong because you should feel some conviction and you should have some wisdom when somebody's off. So maybe you get down the line, and just because this person's a Christian doesn't mean they're for you. Just because he's a Christian doesn't mean that he's meant for you. So you can start to discern, yeah, that ain't right. I'm good. I was dating this guy. I shouldn't say dating. I went on one date with him. And he was part of this like reformed Baptist, like I don't think the girls wore jeans. Not for me. Not for me. I can't do no grace. Oh, I can't do that. I was like, I can't wear jeans. Like I wear jeans to work. Like, no. No, no, no. I don't think the girls wore pants. So it was a no for me. Like that, you're a Christian, you're a believer, but it's a no for me. Because I'm gonna go ahead and put on some sweatpants. What do you wear to the gym? You wear a tennis skirt? Okay, let's talk about deal breakers. Deal breakers. Okay, let's talk about some deal breakers. I got 30 minutes. Oh, do you know you have 30 minutes? Okay, let's talk about deal breakers. So Ugh, let's talk about this. I do not think deal breakers. Um, I think you should really think seriously about your deal breakers. I think you should have no more than 10. I think you should have no more than 10 love list items or whatever, like your list items. And I think you should have no more than 10 deal breakers because some things that people are calling deal breakers are just preferences. Like that's not gonna impact your relationship and your marriage. So my first deal breaker for me was children. Now, someone said something to me that was very powerful that I will never forget. And she said, if you're dating a man and his child lives in another state, is that really the kind of man that you want? Why wouldn't he go follow her to that state and be in that same state with her? And I know this is going to trigger some people. But to me, like that's the kind of man that I would want to be with, a man who's like, I nope, that's my child. I want to be in her life. So I'm going to make sure I'm in her life. I'm going to go find a way to make sure I'm in her life. That to me is very important. And I don't know if I can believe a man who says he's a believer, but his daughter lives in another state with another with her mother. It's like go figure out a way to make it happen. Figure out a way to make it happen because then I know that you're serious about your children. Um, the other thing that it depends on is like if the mother is still alive. Like for me, I was maybe willing to do the stepmother thing, maybe if the mother was not in the picture, meaning she had passed away, not or she was like incarcerated or kind of like down that kind of thing, but not if it was like this active in and out. I just For me that was a no. It may not be a no for you, and that's okay. It may not be a no for you. That's fine. I'm not judging you for that. I think that people who have children already should marry people who have children already. But like if you don't believe that, then that's fine. But I think there's a lot of complications that come with number one, you're spiritually attached to another person. And I think it's hard for someone who does not have children to understand that. Like your spirit, this man or woman is spiritually attached to that person because they have a child together. Their DNA, they are forever connected. So you have to be okay with that. I was not okay with that. For me, that was a no. Number two, previously married. This so as I got older, this changed because there is something wrong with a man if he is 45 and has never been engaged or never been married. There is I have questions. I have questions about your maturity. Like nobody, you couldn't find nobody. That's concerning. So the other thing I want to think about is like, how did that relationship end? Did that relationship end because of adultery? Did that relationship end because you left? Did you try and reconcile? What happened? Like, there's biblical grounds for divorce, and so we just want to make sure that we're good with God before we hop into something else, right? Um, like or a lot of times this is what happens, someone becomes a believer and the non-believer files for divorce and leaves. Okay, well, there's nothing you could do about that, right? So there's just differences in, there's just differences in that. So for me, someone being previously married was a deal breaker. I did not want someone who was previously married because I was young enough to where I was like, no. I don't want to deal with that. And usually at my age, if someone was previously married, they had children. And that was a no. Okay, smoking, heavy drinking, that speaks for itself. Sedentary lifestyle. I believe that one of the commandments in the Bible is to take care of your temple. If you do not do that, you probably have some other issues that you need to address. Education. Yeah, I have a master's degree, and because I have a master's degree, um, I wanted someone who at least had a bachelor's degree, because I have life experience from having a master's degree that only someone with that kind of degree would have. And somebody's going to be upset about it, but here's the thing. There is a life experience that comes with going to university that you do not get if you do not go to a university. So for me, I, as a Black woman talking to my children about going to college, I want to be able to say, we both went to college. These are the benefits. This is what we're doing. This is why we go to university. These are the things that you should major in. You want to major in something that's going to, that's going to give you options, even if you don't want to do that career. For me, that was a no brainer. If you work in corporate and you have corporate needs, corporate meetings, that's something to think about. Now, this is not a money thing. This is not a money thing. I have to say that education was not a money thing for me. It was more so about exposure and having like a similar life experience. We both did the dorm thing. We both, persevered through something. It's more of the psychological impact than it is necessarily financial. I know people are like, you don't have to go to college to make a lot of money. I'm fully aware that that's not the case. But for me, I personally wanted someone who was educated, someone who had a college education. That was a deal breaker for me. I've tried to date people who, did not go to university, and it just didn't work out. I'm too, I don't know, uppity. I don't know. I was an English teacher, for crying out loud. Like I, I don't know. There was a mismatch of, um, yeah, there was just a mismatch of class. Okay, church attendance slash denomination was a deal breaker. I was not with people who were like, I love God, but I don't go to church. Okay, here's why. Do not forsake the meeting of unbelievers. Like you need to, of believers, right? Do not forsake the gathering together of believers. So why are we are saying that we love God, but we're not meeting up with people in some form? Certain denominations are not for me. If you think that I am not saved because I have not spoken in tongues, we're not meant to be. We're not meant to be. That's okay. Just because someone is a Christian doesn't mean that they're for you. So I don't think that you have to agree on every issue, but I do think you should agree on the major issue. Okay, do you believe that Jesus Christ is Lord? Do you believe in being saved by grace through faith? Have you had a conversion experience? How are you following Christ daily? Like that matters. But then, like, all the other like dispensationalism, but I don't care nothing about that. Do you believe in the Trinity? Like that matters. All this other stuff, I'm not really too. I don't get too hung up on. Um, do you believe you can lose your salvation? That kind of stuff. The stuff that matters. So it does. You do want to look at that. Lack of personal development. One of the hallmarks of a believer should be personal development, not because you're doing it yourself, but because Christ himself has given us the Holy Spirit so that we can actually develop and be sanctified. So if you're someone who's not looking to grow, it's a no for me. Heavily legalistic. Yeah, okay. So I have a page on legalism. I'm going to tell you, I'll talk about that in a little bit. Men who have no father figure or no father or have not addressed their lack of father issues, they're usually very sassy. They're usually very sassy, which is a no for me. And they usually they act like women and they lack emotional control. So for me, my deal breakers were those. Okay. I had an age deal breaker too. Like I wasn't going to date anybody who was more than 7 years older than me. So, and I wouldn't date anyone who was younger than me. Those are one of my deal breakers, age wise. Okay. Preferably older, just because like they've just had a little bit more life wisdom than I do. Um, so yeah, let's talk about legalism for a second because I think this is something that's overlooked. It is rare, by the way, that legalism is tied to prayer, worship, church attendance, verse memorization, confession of sin, repentance. We did a whole talk on we had one of the churches I went to when I was unmarried. We had a whole discussion on legalism, and one of the things we talked about is that you know it's usually not legalism. Um, we're usually not legalistic about prayer or singing or church attendance. It's usually things that are not necessarily outlined in scripture or things that are sort of meant to enhance the way that you look as a believer. So if men, I told you guys earlier about that one guy I dated, and it was like nobody was wearing pants, and I was like, yeah, no, we ain't finna do this. I already did that. If you guys don't know, I've already done that in my life. I've already done the legalism thing, like where we didn't wear pants, we didn't wear earrings, you didn't get your nails done, you didn't wear makeup, all that stuff. Okay, like we did that. Legalism is usually self-righteous, sanctimonious, pompous, arrogant. It's usually around like food choices, clothing choices, and not just modesty. And it's more concerned about keeping up appearances of holiness. I read something the other day that said rarely is someone legalistic who doesn't have a deep, deep sin that they are trying to cover up with their legalism. And that was very scary to me because actually it's true. The people that I have engaged with who are hyper legalistic or even just a little bit legalistic usually have some sin that they're trying to really like keep down with their appearance of holiness. I see you. I see you. They're usually like they are like excessive drinkers or something, and so they like, oh, everyone, I need everyone to make sure that I look holy, I look good, I say the right thing, our family does the right thing. Yeah, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And so you can decide if that's something that you're okay with. But like I don't eat pork because I think pork is disgusting in the United States, but I don't not eat pork because it says so in Leviticus. I don't avoid shellfish. I'm not doing any of that. That doesn't make me more holy. I'm gonna go ahead and have seafood gumbo every Christmas. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm not doing, you know, and so yeah. I just to me that was a deal breaker. I said I'm not engaging with men who are like this because usually they also have extreme control issues and the way that you win and you develop in relationships is not by control. It's actually by leading by example and leading with love. That's actually how you develop a healthy relationship. So I was like, no, that's not for me. But you might like it. That was for me. That was a deal breaker. Okay, money. Let's talk about money. This might take a long time. Okay. So a lot of people have this talk about money. He needs to make six figures. He needs to make and listen. I had a money standard. I sure did because I was very successful in my own business and if a man is calling himself a Christian and wants to engage with me in a certain way and wants me to be in a certain role at home, that he needs to meet that standard. Um, but here's where I think it differs. If you're younger and you guys are getting, you're dating, you're getting married, and you're not ready to have children, build, build together. Like make sure that you guys are both on a trajectory to do well together. Build together. I don't think there's anything wrong with building together when you're young. I think it becomes an issue when you're older and you're because when you're older, you're on a different timeline. So you don't have time to build together when you're older. You have to like get going. So if you're younger, let's say you're in your 20s or 30s, young 20s, late young 30s, I should say, mid 20s, you might have some time for you guys to come together and say, okay, we both make around 50, 60,000. Okay, what are we going to do? Okay, we're going to work our butts off for these promotions. Great. Let's get this going. That's very different than like me. Let's say I'm 38. I'm not 38, but let's say I'm 38. My This guy I'm dating is 44. It's like, what you doing, homie? Because boom, minute we get married, if you want to have children, it's got to be quick. So what are we doing? It's location dependent. I said this earlier. I myself will probably not stop working for a while because we live in the Bay Area of California. Now, my husband makes great money, but a home in California is like 1.3 million if you want a nice home. That's crazy, which means you have to have a down payment and you have to have a monthly payment and you have kids. So, and I like to get my nails done and I like to shop and I like to do this. So, yeah, that for me is like completely stopping working. I don't know if I'll do that. But maybe you're in a state where, maybe a six figures or 80,000 a year is plenty. Go on with your bad self. That's fine. But I live in the Bay Area of California. And so I understand that asking someone to be a complete provider means one, I have to downgrade my lifestyle, which is fine. I would do it, downgrade my lifestyle. And number two, I might be shrinking my pool. I might be shrinking my pool. So just being okay with that. Now, money is career dependent as well. So let's say I know people who are in public safety, so police officers, firefighters, whatever. Their income increases almost every year, right? Okay, so you can predict, okay, let's say he just got started in his firefighting career. I know that, he can work overtime, he can do this, he can do that. They can make money. They have good benefits. So we're not just looking at like how much money does he make? Maybe he has better benefits than you. So maybe he's right. You guys are at the same level, but he has better benefits. Okay, that's great. That means you're taking less money out of pocket for medical expenses. It's timeline dependent. I already talked about this. Where are you in your family planning? It's crazy to be at like 25. I want to have kids before 30. You need to make six figures at 25. I don't That happens in the Bay Area. I don't know that that happens in any other state. In the Bay Area it happens, but I like to remind you that six figures is barely enough. It's barely enough in California, you guys. Rent here for like a one bedroom can be anywhere from like 2,500 to 4,000 a month. I think it's like 2,700 to 4,000 a month. And it's just rising. So I think you have to like be really have an honest conversation about with yourself about your money versus his money. What's the difference? What's the reality? What's useful for you guys? I think 20 years ago I probably would have said, "Yeah, a man should provide." But like we're in this like weird situation. So one thing I will say about a man providing is I do think that even if you're both working, it's healthy for men to be in control of like housing and electricity, like paying for the structure of the house, paying for, like that helps with the dynamics of male and female. um just money gets weird in marriage, I'll tell you guys that much. So you can't just be like, yeah, you have to be careful. But I do think like it is healthy for a man to be, maybe he pays the mortgage and you buy the groceries, or he pays the mortgage and all the electricity, and you do the trips, the vacations, or whatever. So finding a way to still make it where he's providing but you're both working is doable. So again, I live in California, so I have to be honest. I can't just be out here lying to you guys like, "You know what? You just he better make," cuz it's literally like 3 or 400,000 is like what you have to make to take care of an entire family in California, and for your it's that's just the standard of living. Otherwise you're on poverty. You are in poverty, and that's a fact. So we have to be honest about that. And on one of my other lives I was talking to someone else, and I said, if you're in your career right now, think about how it might look for you to switch to a career where you can work from home. Because once you can work from home, that makes it easier for you to have a family and to be able to balance the two things. So that's something that you can think about. Like I said, for me, I knew that I was like, okay, I want to have a family. Teaching and my current business are great for that because I can still make income, have income, and, raise a family. So, yeah, you have to be wise about money. But I don't think, here's what I'm going to say, I don't think that you should put a number on it. I think you should figure out trajectory, figure out what is possible, and talk about it. Now, y'all know I've said this before, but if I make 200,000 a year and you make 80, the gap is too large. Unless for me, because I run my own business, how good is that insurance? Now we can work with something because I can still run my business without when I have children. But we can still use your insurance for the family. So like you got to be wise. I just don't think you should be like number blah 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 because you have to think about insurance and yeah, retirement. Like there's other things. So I said in another video, I was like, okay, let's say I make $200,000 a year. Man I meet makes 100, but he's got like 500,000 in stocks or 200,000 in stocks from his company. I have $50,000 saved. Like, okay, we are kind of equal. We're kind of equal. You have a retirement fund. Like, so we can't be so stupid as to say, like, just this number is the number that I can't, you have to have this number. We got to be asking questions. We have to be figuring out, okay, is this man responsible with his money? Is he, how does he steward his money? Because if you're planning on having children, you have to remember that you may not be working. So what does it matter if what if he has $300,000 saved and 200,000 in stocks? And so now we're talking. So we just have to be wise about the money conversation. I think as Christians, we shouldn't be so quick to be like, but again, in the same breath, because two things can be true at once, it is really important that you do not get with somebody who feels inferior to you because you make more money than them. Because a lot of men get out of character, y'all. I'm telling you, I've seen it in the church. They get out of character when their wives make more money than they start acting a fool because they feel inferior. That's not it. So you have to be very careful. Very, very careful when it comes to money. Okay. I have 10 minutes. Yeah. Y'all not going to like this, but I don't care. I don't care. If you are a Christian and your deal breaker is race / ethnicity, I have questions. I do. I think that we have to get to the point where the most important thing when we're talking about marriage is that we are with someone who is equally yoked, meaning we are both on the same page when it comes to our faith, our growth in God, our commitment to Christ. I don't care what color you are. And I think that Christians should really step out of this. I understand there are like ethnic and cultural concerns, but you are putting yourself in a box when you say I can only date someone who's white, I can only date someone who's black, I can only date someone who's Mexican. My family speaks Spanish. I get blah blah. Like I get it. But you know what? You're putting yourself in a box. So now you're relegating yourself to you're excluding people based on their race. I don't know if that's biblical. I don't know that that's a good thing. So it's not like we're saying go purposefully look for someone who's this. No, it's like go find Christians, be with Christians. If that Christian person matches you, who cares if they're white, black, Asian, or otherwise? That's my point. So just something to think about because you might be blocking your blessing. You know what I mean? Okay, next one. I have 27 slides. I'm only having the y'all, and I have a meeting at 12:45. So I'm gonna have to do a part two. Maybe I'll just do a part two right after this, after my meeting. Okay. People who are like, I'm spiritual. Have a beautiful day. God be with you. May you submit to the gospel one day. I believe in God, but I don't go to church. That's not going to be it for me. Because even if you don't have a home church, you should be actively looking for a church. You should be actively listening to sermons. You should be saying, you know what, I'm looking for this. I live in an area where they don't really preach the gospel. So da 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 da. I'm thinking of moving. But just wholeheartedly, I don't go to church though. But I believe in God. You know what I mean? No. Nope. That's a no. So when you guys are hearing people, when you're meeting someone, they're like, "Are you a Christian?" I'm spiritual. That ding 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 ding. The power of Christ. Oh no, no! I rebuke it. No, Sean, no, 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 no. Get out of here. No. Take that sage and all that hat gabbage somewhere else. That's not for me. I rebuke it. No, like get out of here. Do not. When people are like, I'm spiritual. Oh, shut up, Bubble. Get out. Get thee behind me, Satan. Usually what that means is I like the idea of God, but I don't really want to live a Christ-like life. So I want to kind of be in with God, but because I don't want to go to hell. But I think if I can just say I believe in God, then maybe He'll let me in. But I still want to do the things that I want to do. No, nobody comes to the Father but by me. So you're not coming to the Father unless you actually believe in Jesus. So the Father is God. And so unfortunately, babe, unfortunately, if this is what you believe, then babe, you're not quite as spiritual as you think you are. Okie dokes? Yeah. Don't fall for the okie doke. Okay. Okay. So Christian, are they Christian? People who are reading their Bibles, people who are getting to know the Lord, people who are getting to know the Lord will talk to you about Him. How are they learning? If there's someone who's like, I'm still, looking for a church, how are you learning then? Do you have a devotional? Do you have a Bible study that you're in? Do you have a group that you're doing? Are you looking for a church at the very least? Um, how long have you been a believer? Tell me your salvation story. Now, I wrote up here, you don't have to ask these questions because what I like to do is I like to see if these things come up. So this last one, I do ask. I want to know your salvation story. I just think salvation stories are so cool. Even if we never get married, I love salvation stories. I just think God is like he writes the best love story. He writes the best love story. And I don't mean love story. I mean like him coming down, sending his son down. God writes the best love stories. You need to be asking people anyway, because at the very least, it will have you be like, wow, God is still powerful. He's still moving. Woof. He's great. God writes the best love stories. But all these other things, I like to see if they come up. I like to know, okay, are you going to talk about this by yourself? Or do I have to yank this out of you? Because if someone's already a believer, these things are going to come up. They're going to come up. They're going to talk about, oh, it's so hard to go to a church. What church are you going to? I know. Well, I like that church, but or I tried that, or I went there once. There are so many men that I met who were like, yeah, I went to that church once, but I just didn't like it. Just didn't seem like the right fit for me. Blah blah blah. I just couldn't get in with the men's group or whatever. You know what I mean? So you need to see if these things are coming up. Okay, maybe I'll do my last slide. Okay, yeah, this will be a good one to end on. I'm not done though. I have set 20 more slides to go. Stop opening Christian conversion academies. The conversion rate is 0.01%. The conversion rate is 0.01%. It's a little bit higher for men to women, but it is not, it almost never works for women to men. It does not happen very often. So if you're dragging somebody's butt to church, I promise you the Christian Conversion Academy is not it's not it has a very low success rate. It should be shut down. It is not accredited. So you need to stop trying to open those schools. Stop opening Christian conversion academies for these men. And this is as someone who has done this, okay? Do not. It is very rare that a man who is outside of the will of God is going to change his whole life for you. Those are love stories on Lifetime. Okay, that's the Christian Hallmark story. And it's not real. It's not. So I know we want a thug to theologian, and so we want that. So we we kind of go after those men, but if they're not already walking with the Lord and building their own relationship with God, do not open a conversion academy because I promise you it is not accredited and nobody passes. It is a failing operation. So you can be friends with these people, you can be hoot hoot whoop, but do not date them under the expectation that they will change. Okay, you guys, if you like this video, please leave a comment below. And if you want me to do a part 2, which is the rest of my slides, leave a comment. I have to go do a phone call right now. Thanks for watching. I finally got this video out. Thanks for requesting it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.